the war and violence and conflict, that when you're actually there, it's okay, when's this going to happen? You know, you're on your toes, like, when's this going to happen? And you're...
This is October of 2006, in and around Fallujah, correct?
Yes.
Just to frame it.
From October up until April of 2007.
So what was the situation, you know, as you knew it, or as your unit knew it, in that area, where you know, briefed as to this is a very dangerous, very violent, you know, in terms of...
2006 held the most violent, the most amount of violence since the start of the war. So it was a very heightened state of awareness, because there was constantly, we call them SIG events. Every time any coalition force was attacked in Fallujah, we were briefed on it that morning before a patrol. We were averaging about 9 or 10 a day. So it wasn't if we're going to get attacked, it was when are we going to get attacked, how's it going to happen, what means are they going to attack us with, is it going to be an IED, is it going to be a sniper, small arms fire. So we were all very aware of the potential dangers and knowing we were going to get attacked.
What was the first time you encountered enemy fire, enemy IED? Or
small arms fire. Some POC shots from a rooftop.
Early on?
I think it took me about 2 weeks before the first time I was on a patrol where we were attacked. So it was predominantly small arms fire the first time. I saw a couple mortar rounds. I, fortunately enough, was never in a vehicle that got hit by an IED, so I was fortunate for that.
Were you the exception?
I think so. There was a handful. We lost a lot of guys to IEDs. So I mean, we saw a handful of them. I was just, I guess, in the right place at the right time to not have been hit by one.
What was the most difficult story you had to write, or was there?
Every memorial. I wrote a memorial story for every Marine that was killed in our battalion, and we lost 22 guys.
Talk about the process of how you, I mean, someone's killed, and then you go and...
We hold, if a Marine from our battalion was killed, that company would hold a memorial service with the boots, the rifle, and the helmet and dog tags. And I had the honor and privilege to write these stories for the families back home, but it was extremely difficult because I knew a lot of these guys, and it was, I couldn't sit and mourn along with my fellow Marines. I had a job to do. I had to take photos. I had to do interviews.
Who did you interview for these type of things?
A lot of times I kind of went the easy route, and I would just take a tape recorder and I would put it on the podium. So the battalion commander would speak, company commander, the chaplain, and usually two of their closest friends would speak. And I learned that was the easiest way to do it, because I didn't feel comfortable asking these Marines about their friend at such a vulnerable time. So it was much easier for me to use the tape recorder, and I feel that it was easier for them as well to not have to recount them. But those were extremely humbling and difficult stories to write.
How many, generally how many words? Was there a word limit? Or
usually it was at least 550, and you tried to keep it below like 1,200, just because as a news article you don't want it being a novel. So that was usually the frame that we tried to stay within.
Was there anything that you tried to include in every story, or tried not to include?
I don't think there was anything specific that I tried to keep out of stories or to put into stories. I usually try to find a unique angle, something to pique readers' interest.
Even for memorials?
No, well, for memorials, no. What we did, and the command that I had, we had a template for memorials, because we wanted each Marine to receive the same accolades, the same remembrance and honoring from person to person. So usually we had, it was, you list the awards they had, you quoted the officers who spoke, you quoted the friends, talk about what deployments they had been on. So we had a template for that, just so each person got the same amount of honoring per story.
What kind of operational tempo were you on? I mean,
I was go all the time. Normally I was up at 7, go on my patrol depending on how long the patrol goes. I'd be at work in the office till 8, 9 o'clock at night. This is on my first one. And then it was the very next day. Sometimes I got off one patrol and jumped onto another. So my first one was extremely high tempo.
Any breaks?
I got one day off, actually, throughout the 7 months. The battalion commander ordered that every person would get at least one day off, but until that point, no, I was on the go for 7 months straight.
Any free time?
A little bit. Most of the time, any free time I got, I tried to find, I tried to sleep as soon as I got off work and left, because I knew I was back up and at it again the next day. So I tried not to. And I every once in a while I go to like a computer lab if they had one at the base I was at, or make a phone call home if again they had the phones. But usually I would try and spend the majority of my free time relaxing and trying to get some sleep, maybe watch a movie on my laptop.
Start to wear on you?
It did. You get exhausted, you get tired, but you get used to it as well. I mean, it takes a toll on your body. I'm 26, I got knee problems, and I got my back gets sore sometimes, and I got ankle problems, but...
Coffee, Rippets?
Oh, yeah. That was the one thing I convinced my family to continuously send over. There was never enough Monsters for me to have. So my caffeine intake was through the roof. The amount of nicotine I induced was greatly increased. But yeah, you do get used to it. You find ways to adjust to it, and you got to do it. There's really no choice.
What was the most maybe interesting story you wrote during that first deployment? Off the beaten path.
We did a lot of humanitarian stuff. Rebuilding schools, working with government officials. I wrote a wide variety. I wrote a story about a girl that she had braces on her legs, and we took our one of the head surgeons to see her, to check her out, see what her problem was, and she eventually got sent over to the States for treatment. And that was probably one of the more interesting ones I wrote, was to get having that hit the mainstream. That we're doing stuff like that. Like, she wasn't going to be able to get the treatment in Iraq that she needed, so we sent her to the United States.
When you say hit the mainstream, did somebody pick it up in a national paper in the United States, or?
I believe so. It would get picked up by so many blog sites. It was hard to track because so many blog sites would pick up stories and transfer them, so it was kind of difficult to see exactly where all your stories went if you were tracking them. And me, I worked at such a high tempo that wasn't as much of a concern to me.
Sure.
It was more, okay, I got to get back out and get more done. There was never, my boss, there was never enough, which he pushed us. He was probably one of the greatest man I've ever worked for.
Was there any story they said, no? Won't publish it, won't write it?
No, I don't think I didn't really run into that problem. I think because I knew what I was able to distinguish what was news, what would be a problem.
What would be a problem?
Relevance. If it's just not interesting, if it's been done too many times, if it violated certain, if it gave away too much information as to what our location, our procedures and operating, anything that the enemy could get on that could learn far more about our operations, talking about things before they happen, or if one thing's going to lead to another. And one story I wrote was about excuse me, a Marine from Lebanon who spoke fluent Arabic. I wrote the story within the first couple weeks of our deployment because of how great of an asset he was. We didn't submit it for publication until about 3 days before we left country, and he was done going on patrols because of the safety concern for him, for snipers or anything. He would then become a big target.
So you almost operated as like a self-filter. I'm not going to write this because
I tried my best to do that way, because then it saved me time, sure, and saved my boss's time for having to figure it out. And if I wrote something that wasn't going to be published, I just wasted an entire day and on the patrol or writing the story. That's one day gone and one story gone. Now I got to work twice as hard to get more stories in.
So who was responsible for grammatical and even content editing?
I would do that, and I would send it to one of the officers that worked in the battalion. Worked in journalism, so he would edit it as well, and then I would shoot it up to my superior in my field, my gunnery sergeant Oliver, and he would do the content, make sure it wasn't violating any operational security rules.